As many of you know, a major solar company closed last week, raising questions about the stability across the entire industry. Today, I'm lucky enough to be sitting down with Matt from Sungage to get some straight answers on what this means for homeowners, reps, and the future of solar financing. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Ringo.
Absolutely. You seem like you're a little chilly. You got your coat on tonight, man. So I know you're up in the Northeast, but thank you so much for joining us. Um, So, for those that are unfamiliar with Sungage, can you give us a quick description of the company and maybe your role there?
Yeah, sure. So, Sungage Financial is a solar fintech. We've been around for 15 years. We pretty much just focus on ownership. So, loans, we do solar loans, no TPO or anything like that. We were the first solar loan company, and we're still here 15 years later. We're known for our customer service, our kind of white glove treatment of installers, and just kind of trying to put the best products out for homeowners to and sales reps to sell to people who they're sitting down across the kitchen table from.
Oh, perfect. I thank you so much. Perfect description, perfect timing too, as well. So, let's just go ahead and get right to these questions, man. I want to ask you. I'm trying not to say too many names, but I've really got to I got to mention a name. So, when a company like Freedom Forever collapses like they did, when they close like they did, with the level of debt that they have, what actually breaks behind the scenes from a financial perspective?
Yeah, yeah, a lot. This has been a pretty crazy week in solar, and that's a big piece of news. So I guess the first thing I want to acknowledge is whenever a big major solar company goes down like that, it's a black eye for the entire industry.
Mhm.
Um, it's not something that any of us ever want to see, right? But the reality is there's going to be ripple effects, and they're significant. So the fintechs that were supporting Freedom have pretty serious exposure here, probably, and that could put their businesses or at least their capacity at serious risk. So we've already seen other fintechs exit the space over the last year, and it does create opportunity for companies like ours. But let's be honest, it's not a good look for anyone. So, we don't want to see it. Beyond fintechs, though, distributors and manufacturers are going to take pretty serious losses on this. And perhaps most importantly, and probably the thing that I should have mentioned first is there's a huge number of people, employees, sales reps, they don't have a job anymore. And they're going to have to land somewhere. That's real and it matters. So, my thoughts go out to the people that are without a job right now and they need to find a new home. And I hope they find a place that they feel comfortable. It's also a pretty big trust problem. So, when something like this happens, it chips away and erodes at consumer confidence in the industry as a whole. And that's also genuinely unfortunate because there's so many like quality companies out there doing this the right way and doing the right thing every day. So I guess I try to put a silver lining in there about various things, and if I'm talking about something negative, it's good to try to find a positive. But if there is a silver lining here, I think that equipment that was previously allocated to Freedom will start flowing back into the market, which could help ease some of the supply chain pressure we've all been feeling recently with fiat compliant equipment and things like that. They were a pretty big consumer of mods, batteries, racking, everything. And my real hope here is that quality installers step up to the plate and make sure that the homeowners that were working with Freedom and wanted to work with Freedom don't get left behind. They made a decision to go solar, and they deserve to be taken care of too.
And you bring up a lot of interesting points, and as the people aspect of it, I see it on all social media. There's people scrambling to get to other places, people scrambling to recruit. There's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes, but or not even behind the scenes, pretty much in social. But I never thought about the amount of material that will be flowing back onto the market. It didn't even cross my mind. So I love asking these questions and being able to interview smarter people like yourself. So, following up with that, I it makes me want to go right into this question, and were you, meaning, Sungage, were you exposed to any Freedom Forever in any meaningful way? And also, the second part of that question is, more importantly, how do you structure your business so something like this doesn't impact your partners or customers?
It's a good question. just want to get out in front of the fact that we have zero exposure. Sungage has
Okay.
no exposure to Freedom. They were not a partner of ours, and they never have been.
Hmm.
So at Sungage, we're extremely deliberate with who we work with. We have what I truly believe is an industry leading vetting process. It's backed by an incredibly strong team. When I look back over the last few years, we've watched some massive installers go bankrupt, and we've not had exposure to any of the big ones at all. And lots of shout out to our vetting team and our risk people. They do an incredible job. So I don't know. That's something we're really proud of too, and it's kind of a company pillar of ours. When it comes down to our core focus, we want to work with the best installers in the business and companies that are in this for the right reason, that are focused on doing what's right for their customers. Compliance is not an afterthought for us; it's a priority. We're making sure that the financial product that we're putting out in the industry is backing clean, quality projects, and that's just kind of the Sungage DNA.
I love that. So, man, everything you're answering is perfect. From your vantage point, what is the biggest difference between financing companies that survive long term versus the ones that get into these kind of situations? And I'm not trying to say that this was all a financial company, but we have had, as you mentioned a minute ago, we've had other finance companies in the past, large ones that I didn't see coming. You may have had some insight on it. But what's the difference between the companies that are long term versus the ones that get in these kind of situations?
It's a hard one, and I don't want to dance around the question too much. It's a hard question to answer because every company runs their business differently, right? And I respect that. Some people have the philosophy of charge more and take on a lot more risk. Some people have the philosophy of charge less and be careful with who you work with. Maybe don't grow as big so fast because you're a little bit more deliberate with your network, or maybe you're trying to explode the company and grow as fast as you can and take more risk. So there's no, I mean, I guess there's a right way and a wrong way, but at the end of the day, if your company is successful, there's no real right formula to it. But I can talk about our philosophy. For us, it's always been quality and compliance first. That's the lens that we look through when deciding who we work with. One concrete example of this is that caused us a lot of it had a lot of people looking sideways at us over the years. We've never done M1s. We don't do M1s. We've never done them, and that's been a pretty significant problem for a lot of our peers in the space. If you look back at a lot of the trouble that's gone on in the solar fintech space, it's due to M1s, people going out of business and owing them a lot of money. So, here's the thing. Most risk in the installer, in the solar lending space, it's not really credit risk because the generally that pool of people borrowing are pretty qualified buyers. It's not a subprime lending market. It's installer risk. That's why we make such a deliberate choice to work with the best installers in the business, kind of full stop, right? Um, Now that that means that we've scaled a little slower over the years, for sure. We've made that trade off knowingly, but here we are, 15 years later, right? We started this 15 years later, and we're well capitalized and one of the most trusted names in solar lending. And I think the track record that we have speaks for itself. I give a lot of credit to our risk teams, our C-suite choices, our capital markets group for making choices that have worked really well for us, and I'm happy with where we sit right now.
I think you should be. Knowing you guys and how Sungage operates as a company, I'm trying not to pander to you. I don't want to sound pandering to you, but you guys are just so awesome to work with in every aspect. So, I don't even know if I realized you didn't do the M1. So that's interesting you bring that up because that does put people in a bind at times. So, this is kind of a follow-up to the second question, but how much of the lender stability really comes down to who you allow to submit deals, and how aggressively does Sungage vet, and or if you need to, do you remove dealers? And if so, how do you do that often, or is it something you see?
Yeah, we do. So, as I mentioned before, the biggest risk for fintechs in the space is installer risk, right? So, That's exactly where we put our energy. Our vetting process is really, really robust, and we're talking a full review of financials, deep dive into the company's principles, reputational analysis, and there's a lot of other factors behind that too, but it's pretty comprehensive. But it really doesn't stop at onboarding. We are constantly reevaluating the health of our entire network. If a partner no longer meets the criteria, we do remove them because that turns into our risk. And sometimes it's not really black and white. It's if the relationship's not working right now because of something's going on with that company, we're happy to press the pause button and they can come back when everything's in the right place, and that's okay too. I guess the point is we're not just vetting at the front door and hoping for the best. We're actively managing the quality of our network all the time.
Okay. That's fantastic. Um, I think this next question is probably one that I am asked so often, and I don't know how to answer this, so I cannot wait to hear your perspective on this. But if a contractor was to fail, because you just said it, it's the contractor, it's the installation partner that is really the risk here. Let's just say if a contractor fails mid-project or post-install, what protection, actually exists for the homeowners when financing is involved? Because I hear that question all the time. I really don't know how to answer it. So I can't wait to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, sure. It's honestly another pretty complicated question. You put together some pretty good questions for me here. They're definitely it's there's some deep dive stuff here, but the answer really depends on whether we have a relationship with that failed installer or not. So there's kind of two different buckets. So if they're in our network, we've got a process for that. We work with a handful of companies that specialize in project remediation, and at that point, the focus is simple: get the project to the finish line. And we have also a pretty deep bench of installers as well that work with us that can come in and complete work if needed outside of those remediation companies if it makes sense. At the end of the day, the homeowner who doesn't get what they paid for is an unhappy homeowner. It's a problem for everybody. It's a problem for the industry. So it's bad for everyone. We take that seriously. So I guess the other bucket here is if an installer fails that we don't have a relationship with. And those projects are now going to flow to other installers potentially and come to us through the back door. We try to stay out of those projects. And honestly,
Mhm.
we wouldn't really want them anyway. So if we don't know the installer, we don't know the quality of work, it's just not a risk we're willing to take on. Those aren't deals that we'd touch.
Okay. Gotcha, gotcha. That's interesting. And yeah, I think there's so many people that have heard of, the finance companies that have closed in the past, and now they hate to say it again, just keep bringing up their name, but these two companies have really brought in because they were such stalwarts of the company or the industry. So when you see them falter, it's just it makes everybody uneasy, if you will. So, all right, this question is probably going to be one that probably, if we were to separate all the other questions out, it's probably going to get more attention than all the others combined. But there's going to be a thousand. There's going to be thousands of reps looking for new homes right now. I don't even know if it's thousands, it might be tens of thousands. Who knows? I don't know what their sales force was like. And again, there's going to be office, people and all kinds of people. But there's going to be thousands of reps looking for new homes right now. What should they understand before choosing who to work with next?
So I guess my advice, there's lots of ways to look at this too, but my advice is find a company with a great reputation who's operationally sound. Those two things matter more than anything else. So do your homework, spend some time on it, look at online reviews, talk to other sales reps in the industry. People talk. You can learn a lot by just asking around. There's lots of, even social media, right? There's a million Facebook groups where all these reps or sales reps are talking to each other. Find a
Yeah.
company that doesn't just care about closing deals, but genuinely values the entire experience, the sales process, the install quality, the operations, all of it. Because at the end of the day, the sale is just the beginning, right? It's easy for a salesperson to look at something and say, well, this is the most important thing. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to get paid. And now it's the company's problem to install it. Well, it's your problem too, because your reputation's on the line. And getting the thing from sale to install to PTO is really what defines a company and ultimately defines your reputation as the person that went in and gained the trust of that homeowner.
That's a great answer. And I I just wish I could throw in there, and this is such a lightning rod or comment in this industry, but just not to chase the lowest red line or lowest install cost because you get what you pay for. So I have to throw that in there. It's not going to be a popular response, and I'm not even the one should be answering these questions. But I just want to, if I had anything to say, I just want people to, like you said, exactly what you said is go after the stable companies that are going to be here to be able to sustain a long-term business. So, and that's very rarely is that behind the lowest red line. So,
I
all
couldn't
right,
agree
enough of
more.
that. But thank you so much for that. So, all right. So, what has Sungage done differently over the past few years to ensure long-term stability, even when the market tightens? Because we've seen things change, and if you see any kind of, you know, policy change, there could be, an interruption to the entire industry for months. So, how do you guys sustain that?
Well, at Sungage, we put a tremendous amount of work into making sure our foundation is rock solid. It's important to have that. So that means shoring up our back end, building relationships with trustworthy capital providers, and constantly evolving and refining how we manage risk. It's never really done. It's something that we're always working on. So, I mean, on the capital side, which we're a fintech, so the capital side's pretty important to us. We're really proud to be partnered with the Carlyle Group. They've been an incredible group of partners for us, not just financially, but strategically as well. Having that kind of support behind us matters, especially in an environment like this one. We can constantly make sure that we have capital to lend. We don't have to be concerned about that kind of a constraint, and we've got a partner that's supportive when we're looking to roll out new products and be innovative and bring sales reps and homeowners what they want to sell and what they want to buy, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Now here's one that I don't know. This is real. I can't wait to ask this one. If you, Matt, were running a solar company today, what are some of the smartest moves that you could make this week to protect your business? Because we've seen all these changes and so on. What would you do as a company to make any changes to help yourself to be sustainable?
It's a pretty nebulous question. I could probably think of 50 things, right? If I was going to give advice to installers out there, it really comes down to a few core things that I'd think about first before diving into, all the other million points. So, first look at your sales team and your process. Make sure you've got excellent sales training. Your rep should be running a compliant process that genuinely delivers value to the homeowner, not just chasing a commission check, because long term referrals are what drive more business than any fast deal ever will. For the
Mhm.
company, for the sales representative, for everybody, a sales rep with referrals is going to make more money long term, selling at a better price, selling a compliant process. Maybe it's a day slower, whatever it is, than anyone chasing the fast deal.
Mm.
Um, I guess second, watch your timelines. Don't get out over your skis on volume or expansion. Stay focused on procurement and install timelines. At the end of the day, the goal is simple, right? So you sell a good system, you get it to PTO in a reasonable amount of time, and have a homeowner feels like they got real value. That's the win there. And third, choose the right financing options for each customer. It's easy to get pigeonholed and say, I like selling TPO, I like selling prepaid PPAs, I like selling loans. But there's not a one size fits all solution out there for everybody. There's a ton of them. So, here's the thing not every homeowner benefits equally from all those products. Everybody's got a different financial situation. They've got different levels of income. They've got different cadences in which money comes into their household. Different tax situations, all kinds of things, right? So, train your reps to be consultative. Meet the homeowner where they are, understand their situation, find the option that actually makes sense for them. Focusing on max commission is short sighted pretty often. Sell lifetime value. Make sure the homeowner gets the right financial product for their situation. And I think the companies that do those three things really well are probably building something that's going to last.
Yeah, that's pretty solid advice. And you've never, as far as I know, you've never actually been a solar contractor, right?
Never. No. But I've worked with a real lot of them over the years.
Well, it sounds like it, and it sounds like you got a great game plan for that. So that's awesome. All right, I'm going to get you out of here on this one. I think this is something that I want to ask you directly. And bottom line, why? should a contractor or even a homeowner feel confident choosing Sungage in today's environment? There's other choices. What's so different about Sungage?
Yeah, there's lots of choices out there. A lot less choices than there was before, but there's lots of choices. Look, at the end of the day, we've been doing this for 15 years. We had the first solar loan in the industry, and honestly, we are on better footing today, even in the current market, than we've ever been. We've got a strong backing, a great team, and strong funding capacity. So, it's not just about longevity, though. We pay quickly, we have a competitive credit policy, we support and build in state and local incentives. We stay ahead of policy changes at the state level so that our partners aren't caught off guard. We keep them in the loop about what's going on if they don't know. Oftentimes, we're bringing things to them. And when it comes to loan products, we're the only major lender in the space that's still truly innovating and coming out with new products that aren't just flat installment loans. When other lenders started exiting the market and retreating to plain vanilla installment loans, we made a completely different call, kind of a opposite of what everybody did. We decided to double down. We invested in developing products that would keep solar moving, give sales reps the tools they need to stay competitive out there. A great example of that's the new Sunrise loan that we came out with. We must have been 7 weeks ago or so, and it's quickly become incredibly popular. It's an escalator product. It's super simple. It's been really well received. Give sales reps another powerful way to show homeowners better lifetime savings through ownership. So, while we're still offering a low initial monthly payment, this product is structured to escalate slower than the utility. It's a great story to tell at the kitchen table, and it's pretty well received by homeowners. We're not going anywhere. We're not standing still. We're going to continue to develop new loan products and get into new verticals and continue to meet sales reps and give them something great to sell.
Wow. It's a very complete answer, I must say. So now I will say you're officially off the hot seat. I asked you quite an array of questions that dealt with companies to reps to consumers to Sungage directly, and some of your insights were very impressive. Maybe I should interview you again on some other topics too. So maybe we'll have one just set up for Sungage. Who knows? But I can't thank you enough for hopping on here and doing this with me to help people understand how they should feel comfortable with the industry right now, and especially with Sungage. And again, very insightful answers. I thank you so very much.